All right, here's another one from Bloomberg. Next slide here. Microsoft layoffs hit coders hardest with AI costs on the rise. So engineers make 40% uh, of the total layoffs as AI begins to take over parts of their work. Not a surprise. Uh, Dave, how do you think about this?
Well, this is like right in my wheelhouse. So, we've all been telling people for a long time now that almost any white collar coding or other job, it's not going to exist in 2030. And so there's a line between today and 2030. And very few people are doing enough planning to get ready for it. Just to be humane to your employee base, you should have some kind of plan in place. And had some real frustrating conversations this week with a couple of our companies because they're all using Blitzy. Blitzy is supposed to be an opportunity to learn what long form, an AI that writes 3 million lines of code in a single night. That is incredibly world changing. And then the reports I got back are, hey, it had some bugs. I'm like, oh my God, you completely missed the point. Like, look at the rate of improvement. Look what it's going to do by the end of the year.
Can you
And
slow it down? I love Blitzy. It's one of our investments, full disclosure, in Link-XPV. Uh,
Mhm.
but if you wanted to replicate another company, right? So one of the biggest challenges right now is the ability of AI to basically go in and replicate a SaaS business, to just basically stand up competition. Um, and so, where would you bring Blitzy in to do something like that?
so Blitzy, you know, in its current form, if you have any legacy code base, 5, 10, 20 million lines of code, and you say, hey, I want you to rebuild this entire product, make it faster, better, and run on the cloud. That's kind of their sweet spot right now. But that's not the real point. The real point, if you look 3 months, 6 months, 9 months into the future, and the rate of improvement of the AI, not just to write code, but to build entire plans, like project plans, it's on this crazy, crazy upslope. And so then if you look just a few months into the future, then Blitzy can come in and say, well, look, here's greenfield opportunity. I've wanted to write a piece of software that does something that's been burning a hole in my pocket for years, but it was too expensive. Can I do it now? Yeah, not only can you do it, you can do it in like a night or a week. A lot of people right now use Salesforce.com or Outlook to do things that they've kind of bastardized to their actual use case. And it sort of
Mhm.
works, but it's not exactly what they wanted, but it's good enough.
Yeah.
Now you can just vibe code or Blitzy code your way to a perfect solution for exactly what you were really after originally. And so that creates this whole long tail of really, really good high quality software that does what you actually wanted. Your kind of dream, Peter, of like I get on stage, I've got all this IT around me, I've got avatars I'm talking to. Why am I talking to an IT person? Why can't I just talk to the AI and have it
Yes.
all orchestrated? That is imminent. I mean, and that's a good example of the kind of stuff you can suddenly build because the cost per line of code is down 1,000 or a million X. And so that's what Blitzy is enabling. And it's
I'll just to end on this particular article from Bloomberg here on AI. You know, I used to like harangue my kids, like you got to learn to code, got to like to code, got to learn to code, and now it's you need to learn to vibe code, and you need to learn to think in a way that's concrete. You can describe to your AI. I mean, everybody's going to be a coder. Uh, Everyone's going to have this ability, and it's pretty extraordinary.
Yeah, I'm so glad you said that because I'm working on a memo right now that I'm going to send out to all the CEOs that says, look, guys, be humane here. Some subset of your people are going to be masters of AI, and then another subset are going to get crushed. Come up with some plan for the people that are going to get crushed so that it's humane, you know. And then for the people that are going to be masters of AI, free up half or 2/3 of their time so they can start the 10,000 hours of learning that they need to do to get on top of this wave. What you're doing right now by turning a blind eye to it is you're dooming all of them by not giving the time to become masters of AI, not learn to use things like Blitzy and Cursor
Yes, let
as
them
the talk
play. Let them
approaches.
play.
Let them
Yeah.
play, yeah.
Yeah.
But you
You
have to
know, one-
explicitly allow that. It's not going to happen naturally. You got to have a plan.
in one of our clients, they had to lay off like a third of their call centers because they automated it all. And they gave them an internal 1 year UBI and said, go do whatever you want for a year. Here's a chunk of money, play.
Mm.
And the employees absolutely loved it. And something like 95% got a job very quickly.
The other point you made, I think, is really, really important, because if anyone does choose to take our advice, telling them to go play with Cursor and do some vibe coding is not good enough. That you have to get them into that there's a new mindset related to creativity that allows you to use the AI to do something productive that goes way beyond just vibe coding. We haven't fully specified that skill set, but we know it involves creativity. We know it involves vision. We know it involves knowing how to use the tools and what the tools do well and don't do well. But it's way beyond just saying, hey, guys, play with Cursor a little bit. Okay, now you're an AI person.
Take it a step further, buddy. What would you recommend?
I would say that we, the three of us, kind of specify what we're learning about that skill set, who's succeeding, who's failing, and then codify it into actual programs. Like, I suggest you use this product, you do this training program, you try and build this thing, and just put it out on a website or put it out in this podcast as a roadmap that they can follow.
I love
And
that.
the people who choose to follow it end up being masters of AI. It'll evolve over time, but if it's not as hard, it's intimidating to everybody. No one's trying, even though it's not that hard actually.
What if we had a dedicated podcast episode just to that?
I'd love that.